Oh, wait a minute. I can do the intro. I can. Let's do that.
What's up, man?
Mighty Mother Not So Rico in the house. Your boy Johnny Picho here. I know about you, boy. What up? What up, Johnny?
All right, hold on.
What's up? Can I get your autograph?
I'll come back later.
You'll come back later?
I'll come back later.
Oh my God!
All right.
It's your boy Johnny Picho.
Let them do their job. Let them do
Can I
their
get your
job.
autograph?
Later on.
No.
Let them do their job.
It's your boy Johnny Picho.
I gotta work.
All right, here we go. Let me check in with everybody. We should be good. Saturday night. Folks, I know it's nice out. I know that many of the Southern New England crowd like when I go out and ride. But there's so much to get into regarding this juror with the Karen Reed trial that I think it's worth talking about. And it's been a day of controversy. Without question, this juror, we're going to talk about it. I want to walk through. Should be nice and relaxed, so then I can kind of chat with everybody a little bit. Let me just check. I think YouTube is strong. Remember, we don't need any trolls. We don't put up any trolls, or put up with, I should say. We don't need them. And there's so many different aspects of this, and I get it. Some people, I'm not following you, and blah, blah, blah. And when you've got multiple parts, all right, the YouTube is fine. But I want to, that's the whole thing, the juror. And we're going to talk about that. Now, folks, I want to be very clear. Now, right now, it's Saturday night, and we are live on X and YouTube. That's right. And also on Facebook. And actually, let me just double check. Well, we're going to try, but there's something very odd about this whole situation with this juror. Very, very strange about this juror. And bear with me. It's not just that. It's not just that juror, but we're going to talk about it a little bit. And I want to be very, very cautious. We have a lot of eyes on us. There are people that don't like that I have a large platform. But here's, and I want to explain this because there are people, and we'll talk about it. I'm not in a rush. I could be drinking. That's okay. Shots fired in Pawtucket. I'm here. I don't care. So I did not see Dateline. I didn't see Dateline, but I did see that juror who was on with Vinny last night on Court TV. And so I want to touch on that a little bit. But I also want you to know whether we're on, right now, you're watching on YouTube or Facebook or X. Now, a couple of things. Starting Monday, each late afternoon, right around 4 o'clock, 4:30, we're going to be live. And we're going to have various people because there's still fallout with the Karen Reed. So I think the best way to get people into a habit is to, get them. I believe, the more you do it, the more the people can tune in and watch it. So that is exactly right. Nope, not. Too much news on that. Too much news. So now, I know she was, but let me just stay on this a little bit. And I'm not going to get thrown out of it. Folks, I've been doing this for a while. And the best content is when you're really into it. Whatever it is, by the way. If you're really into cooking, then that's what you go off on. I'm really into this. And people around the country are watching it. And there's still a long way to go with this. I don't care. This is what I'm into. We're going to expose and bring on different guests connected to it. This is the content that I like. If that's not for you, that's fine. But you don't come here and complain. Period. So, no, I feel good about this, and especially what we're going to do starting Monday, each weekday afternoon. Not going to be for everyone. But my thing is, we're trying. So, look at the guess you're on the wrong team. You know, Pamela Bouchard, the truth is never the wrong team. And it shouldn't be looked at as a team. Folks, I want to be very clear. Thank you, Tulu. See, look at that. You're on the wrong team. Well, listen, if there's 99 people that say the earth is flat, it doesn't make it flat. That attorney that I was on last night, the attorney I was on Court TV, this is a litmus test. And I want to be very clear, because if you believe the 227 Google search is true, this is not for you. This is not for you. You're a flat earth person. If you want to follow the crowd, totally fine. Thank you, Claudia. I have plenty of platforms and plenty of followers. I don't go with the crowd. Folks, we're not doing this. Look at that comment. You were on the wrong team. The truth is never the wrong team. I put out what I know, which is we gravitate towards the truth. The other side keeps changing their version of the story. So we're going in a different direction. And it has to be out there for those that want it. When I'm looking for a story, I'm looking for people that are putting out the truth. And I'm not trying to be preachy. And we'll have some fun. And by the way, I'm not a racist. I do impressions of everybody. There are people that are trying to silence. Listen, I do impressions of Alessi. I do impressions of La Posada. Yes, you're on the wrong team. Anyone that believes that is mentally challenged. And I want to give credit to Grant. I was occupied today, and I couldn't fully get on with him. He broke a big part of the story. That this juror, Miss Brazil, that's going out and making all these media appearances, that her father-in-law was in a lot of trouble. And I'm going to talk about her a little bit. But first, I'm going to come back to that because it's really important. Grant broke that. Grant broke a lot of news today. I give him a lot of credit. He's a towel. He is a towel. I didn't see it. I can only watch so much. Listen, I'm in the Fox documentary. I haven't even watched. I don't have time. I'm too much still cultivating, getting info in the story. But I want to talk about this juror that the media is embracing. Where was her first interview? I think that was an interesting choice, really. First interview was with someone who always complained that they were never in the courtroom. How did that interview come about? I think that's interesting. But let's just talk about this juror. Now, what was the information that went out? She's an attorney. She's a mother of 4. What have we learned just since, thanks to Grant and others? She's from Brazil. Grant, the towel, broke the story that her father-in-law was in trouble. And according to the story he put, her and her husband, her father-in-law, is in a lot of trouble. Documents, was arrested, federal prison. Her and the husband, they fled to Brazil. So she says she's an attorney, and the local media, the people interviewing her, oh, she's the greatest. But let's just talk about this a little bit. And I want to be very clear. I'm not ready to make full accusations. We're just We're just having a conversation here on a Saturday night. But so why was it so important for her to be on this jury? I think let's think about this. She's an attorney, but thanks to Grant, we've learned she works at Target. There's nothing wrong with working at Target, by the way. There's nothing wrong with that. But just think about that a little bit. Don't you think you might resent that a little bit? You're an attorney in your country, but here you're working at Target. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. You could see there'd be resentment there. She's got 4 children. According to her interviews, she flew her father in to watch her children. Why was it so important? Why was it so important for her to be on this jury? And she wasn't just a juror. She was a not guilty juror. These interviews have been a coming out party for her. These interviews with her. Listen, I'm not just someone, a clerk at Target. I'm a somebody. And I'm going to do all these media interviews. And I'm a celebrity. And everyone's going to listen to me. And I'm important. And I'm not just a clerk at Target. She was introduced in these interviews as she's an attorney. I think that's interesting as an attorney. Let's talk about that for a moment. She's an attorney, which means she could be hired. She could be hired by someone. And what happens when you're hired by someone? You begin attorney-client privilege, such as, again, just all hypotheticals here. Look at this. People that get upset. I'm not going to put up with that. Go away. Go away. There's another one. Clown. Go away. You don't have to be here. Troll somewhere else. I don't care. We're on the right side of this thing. So I want to stay with this for a moment. So, hold on. Let me get rid of that. Okay. If you're an attorney and you're doing work for someone, that becomes attorney-client privilege. That becomes, okay, here's $25,000 down, retainer, and $25,000 when the project is finished. Total hypothetical. But I'm not I'm not licensed to practice law here. I just want you to look over some documents. I think that's interesting. Many times when I have covered hypothetical, when I have covered Higgins was clearly involved. Why didn't they call him to the stand? Why did the defense call him to the stand? I'm going to let the moderators handle that. Higgins was clearly involved. But let's talk about this juror just for a moment. Why was it so important for the father? Who flew the father in? I think that's very important. Who paid for his plane ticket? Where'd the money come from? Money's not a problem? If money's not a problem, why is she working at Target? 4 kids. And what does she say now? I am off to enjoy the summer. Huh? Really? That's interesting. Suddenly there's money that she can just enjoy the summer. Doesn't have to work. Something very odd about, and again, there are people making allegations. Right now, they're just allegations. I'm telling you, there needs to be investigation with this jury. What have we heard? We've heard there were a couple of people that were bullies and a couple of jurors. Here's what we've heard. They were bullying the guilty, the jurors that were saying guilty, they were bullied by some other jurors. There were about 2 or 3 jurors. But what I find interesting about this Brazilian juror is she went off script. The things she's talking about were from the first trial. First of all, she said, this was a post actually. USA police are overrated. That's an USA police. Huh. So she doesn't say Canton police. She doesn't say Dedham police. She doesn't even say Massachusetts State Police. USA police are overrated. USA police are different than what you try to convince us around the world. That's an interesting statement. Huh. Wow. Wow. That's different. So the father-in-law is in trouble. Her and the husband fled to Brazil. Then she comes back. She says she's an attorney. I have no idea if that's true. That was being peddled to the media. The media embracing her. Oh, she's so brave. Oh, what a juror. Oh, she's just phenomenal. Oh, look at her. She also, Channel 5 interviewed her. I did a screenshot of that. I posted it. She posted into mine. Oh, thanks for posting a photo of me that wasn't so. Listen, I wasn't trying to post a photo. She was saying, oh, thanks for posting a blow-up picture when I haven't had a, whatever she said, unflattering or something like that. Listen, I wasn't trying to, excuse me, I wasn't trying to post a flattering photo or an unflattering photo. I was just posting, she was doing an interview with Channel 5. Why was it so important to her of what photo was used? Why did she say to Grant, maybe I'll let you write my book when I'm rich and famous? So a member of the media went to the Target today. Was recognized. I know you. I see you on Court TV. I said, that's right. He said, you're here about Paula. I said, right again. He said, always talking about the Karen Reed trial. I said, really? At that moment, three people, 2 security, and someone I imagine was a manager, right there. It's a private store. Don't want an incident? We're just going to ask you to leave. You think I'm going to cause an incident? Think I'm going to what? No, cause a scene? I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble. Okay. Why? Why the lockdown on that? Huh. So people are asking me, well, when was she? I don't know. One of the employees, I won't say who, I don't want to get that person in trouble, recognized me. I know who you are. See you on Court TV. You're here about Paula. Yes. Yeah. Always talking about the Karen Reed thing. Really? Now, I don't know if that was from last year. I don't know if it was leading in. I don't know. I may go back. Probably. Again, not trying to get any of them in trouble. So, I don't know. Can we please do something about the trolls? I know. We have moderators. I don't get it. They just come out of nowhere. That's all right. I've already answered that. Go away. Already answered that. Stop asking me. You don't like it? Go watch someone else do it. I'm not going to get distracted here. I'm not going to get distracted. I'm not a DJ playing requests. So I know how to. I know. We have them, though. I know how to. I then know how to. All right, we'll pause for a moment. See, that's part of it, though. It's all part of being a troll. Is. Wait a minute. That's not it. We have moderators. We have a lot of moderators. I know how to do that. Hold on, everybody. Oh, I know. Yes. Okay. Hold on a moment. It won't take long. Yeah, actually, I'm going to do it like that. Here we go. Okay. Give me one moment. Okay. Okay. I know. X comes out with them. Yep. It's tough. Listen, I know it's a drag, but a little bit of housekeeping here and there. Let's see. I know, but you get one out. Okay. Again, it's just an annoyance. It's like a gnat. Yep. Hold on. Let's see. Okay. All right, we should be good. Again, I apologize, folks. It's part of it. That's all they try to do is disrupt. I get it. We'll get better at it. I know. There we go. Okay. There we go. Okay. I don't know about that. But this is all part of it, right? Like, again, imagine all right, we can go back. Oh, I'm going to go right here. Okay, there we go. So, well, we'll deal with it. So, but let me finish with this. So, not finish, but let me get back to it. I apologize. So, I don't know. I don't think it's the prosecution. You have to go with what you have. Thank you very much, Red Sky. So, but let's just be clear. I think it's odd, and let me go back to that juror. And I will be able to go in and out. I know. It's all part of it. So, but I find it strange. I don't know what the deal is. We're just talking hypothetical. But one thing about the Brazilian juror, as she's known, is one thing about that juror is the things she's mentioning were from the first trial. She's like, oh, all the police corruption, and that wasn't a big theme here. She also said last night in the Britain that she really, Karen, I don't know how she does it. She's so dynamic. I am telling you, her impressions didn't add up. Hey, I sat there. These people, I don't know what to make of it now. They weren't really reacting a little bit. They weren't reacting. Many of the talking points they're using was from the first trial, not this trial. So, and she went everywhere. That was like a coming out party. Now, I don't know, right? I believe just this is strange. Out of the box Thursday, boom. That guy's on TMZ and starts also reciting free Karen Reed talking points, right, of the mob. There's something very odd. Yeah. I don't like. Listen, we're not talking about that. I don't want any of the free Karen Reed people here. I can't stand them. They're hag bags. They are. But let's go back to if you're an attorney. So boom, here's a retainer. Could you look over some legal documents? Yes. here's $25,000 up front, $25,000 when the job is done. I think you also have to ask, who would have something to gain? Now, obviously, Karen Reed would have something to gain. Who else would have something to gain by a not guilty verdict? I find the juror, it's melting away. Again, the interviews she did were just, that's exactly right, Tulu. That's exactly right. No, it is not. You're on the wrong team. The thing she was mentioning, not to be overly dramatic, folks, or not the best analogy, but it's almost as if, picture if you start talking about Godfather with someone and they start mentioning things from Godfather 1. Now, I've seen both of them over 50 times. Wouldn't that be odd? Someone's like, oh, I really like that scene with the baptism. Huh, that's not Godfather 2. Oh, it's not? No, that was Godfather 1. What about someone saying, I really like the wedding scene? Yeah, that was Godfather 1. That wasn't Godfather 2. Oh, it was? I mean, when she said, I didn't like that Proctor. He didn't take the stand. I didn't know so much about Proctor. You know what she said? She also said, I wanted to see Brian Albert and Higgins. I wanted to see them testify. Their names were barely mentioned. What do you mean you wanted to see them testify? How about she says ARCA was so much better? I don't believe that. Judson Welcher, the Aperture, they were strong. I don't believe that. There's something very odd about that. Little stuff. You listen to some of the interviews. She's brilliant. She's a lawyer. She's a mother of 4. I want to give credit to the towel, Grant. She's a lawyer. She's a lawyer. She works at Target. Again, I'm not, listen. I'm withholding judgment. I'm just flagging things. Yeah, too many holes. Too many holes. How come they're both saying that? I'm hearing from people that when they went to deliberations, there were like 2 or 3 that were very, very tough, very bullying. Too many holes. Too many questions here. The other thing about the juror is, another thing about her, this Paula, is the fact that she's the one doing all these interviews, by the way. But she basically made the case for Hank Brennan. She said, well, here's, she gives her own rendition. I think she backed up and hit him, and he kind of twisted and then lost his sneaker. Well, that's the murder too. She's saying, well, I don't know if he fell that. Well, Hank Brennan was making the argument that Karen Reed backed up and hit him. So what are we talking about? That's the argument being made. That was the case presented. She basically comes forward and says, yeah, I think that's what happened. Then how are you voting not guilty? And then she comes up with this ridiculous foolishness of, well, that's not, I think he went to this, and I think he went in the house, and I think there's something very odd about. And then other people have talked about the people she immediately came out of the box and was following. But happy summer to you all. Thank you for love and kindness. Absurd things, but she said it. I want to get to some of I think it's time to end my little tour. Head back to work at Target. Even though I'm an attorney in Brazil, here I'm just a mom. A very well-educated mom. She goes out of her way to tell you that. She didn't like the photo. I don't know. I lifted a friggin' screenshot that Channel 5 had. Why didn't you? She tweeted at me, or posted at me, whatever we're calling it. Why didn't you post a more flattering photo of me? Why would I? What lady? I took the screenshot that Channel 5 had. I wasn't trying to post a flattering or unflattering photo. How about this? She said, how long till they go after my kids too? Really? That's interesting. You mean the way the mobs have gone after the Alberts and the McCabe's? She writes, it's not fun, it's invasive, it's wrong. She didn't seem to have any sympathy. I think she didn't like the eyewitnesses. I found that odd. There's something strange here. And then these people rallying around this Officer Barrows. There's something very odd about Officer Barrows. Why did he, as we know, travel 90 minutes to give his address for a subpoena for the secret meeting at the hotel? Could have done over the phone. Very strange. I feel sorry for John's passing. Not sorry enough. Of course, she reposted. Sue O'Connell, tonight on Canton Confidential, my sit down with Juror 11. She was, couldn't talk to her fast enough. Interesting. I'm a well-educated mom. Why was she posting? I like how Grant, I didn't realize that. Again, that's all Grant, convicted of retaining classified U.S. military documents related to our nation's missile defense system. I don't. She writes, I moved to Mass in February 2024, and in February 25, I received the letter. Apparently, she also lives 8 miles. 8 miles or 8 minutes from 34 Fairview, but she said she didn't know anything about the case. She wrote to Grant, I'd love to have you as an author once I get famous and rich. From my tour. Your house is less than 8 miles from Fairview. I think that's interesting. She writes, I follow certain podcasters, certain journalists, certain news outlets, but she took time to come on my stream. She was going after, foreman of Karen Reed trial speaks out. The best foreman we could have. Really? That's interesting. And why is that? Best foreman we could have. I just find the whole thing odd. And what I also find odd is her coming up with her own theories of what happened. You're supposed to go off the evidence, right, that was presented. I don't get this. And she's so insistent, this Paula Prado. Again, she's making things up. I picture seeing a drunk person gets out of a car holding more alcohol. He could have fallen. Karen backed up too fast. Or the car may have slightly touched him. Well, then, what? Why are you voting not guilty? There was no collision. She's writing. She said, I think she was totally innocent. The car may have slightly touched him, causing a spin-like movement, similar to what we saw in Arca. Could have caused the shoe to come off. These are her words. Well, then she writes, so the shoe could have come off when his body was being moved in the ambulance. The shoe was at the curb. Was she even listening to any of this? Could I possibly look worse than in this oh so flattering close-up? That's what she replied to me. I replied, I was just lifting a photo, lady, from Channel 5. I wasn't trying to look for it. Can I find a flattering photo or unflattering photo? I think that's very interesting. What, you know what else? What I really don't like, a lot of things, is she's very vain. Look at me. You people think that I'm just a clerk at Target, but I am an attorney back in Brazil. She did call it a conspiracy. That's right, Candy Cane. Yes. In Brazil, I'm an attorney. Last night with Vinny, I'll tell you what else I don't like, folks. And it's so dangerous. And again, also, just to be clear, it's Saturday night. This was a little bit unplanned. But when you're in my position, you have to go with what you want to talk about or what you want to cover. And right now, this is what I want to cover. So in each afternoon, we have some guests we're going to have on. Karen Reed, they don't want anyone talking about this anymore. Guess what? Monday morning, I'm on with Julie Grant, and we're talking Karen Reed. Now, a couple things. The juror, the foreman of the jury said, well, there was no aha moment. There was no aha moment. Oh, sorry to disappoint you. No aha moment. Well, what about the fibers from the taillight that were found in John's clothing? That's not an aha moment? What about that? Also, her saying, essentially, we need the investigation to go on. She was blowing a dog whistle. That was fed to her. You know, I think that is so dangerous to, thank you very much, Dreamboat Annie. And folks, remember, if you're on YouTube, you could certainly do the super chat or the various chat elements that we have. Some people said, hey, post your Cash App. We did that. Venmo, fine. Listen, I like people that support the content. I am an independent. But what else I didn't like is who fed that to her? Someone pushed her in that direction. You know, she said, I wanted to hear from Brian Higgins. I wanted to hear from Brian Albert. Who told her that? One of the first things they tell them is that you're supposed to focus on the evidence that's presented to you. You don't just start saying, you know, what about this? What about that? How about her and the juror that went on TMZ? They were the first ones out of the box. Basically saying the same thing. Oh, this investigation had holes in it. And, we wanted to hear from those people. I mean, that guy on TMZ, Jason. If it's 99.9%, you got to vote. There's reasonable doubt there. That is not reasonable doubt. So and the fact that she's pushing this narrative, the fact she's pushing the narrative of, you know, they need to redo the investigation. We need to find the people that did that. You know what else? How much she keeps commenting on how much this whole trial cost. Folks, I am telling you right now, and it's almost 9:00 in the East. It goes beyond that. I believe this needs to be investigated. There's something odd here. Police need to go after this juror. I want to know any bank deposits that have been made. I think they should seize her phone. I think they should seize who has she been communicating with. Where is this coming from? What does she care what the cost is? Right? It's supposed to be a high-profile trial. Why is she talking about that? She said, you know, when they would bring us in the bus, I was like, how much is this costing? Someone said, how is the lunch they bring in? She's like, you know, it was fine, but I kept thinking, how much do these lunches cost? Who thinks like that? This is a big-time trial. Why would you be concerned about what it costs? I've never heard a juror say that. I've never heard. How about she said, and I would think we'd get more for $400,000. How did she know how much the aperture was? Folks, what I am telling you, I don't know about arrest. Somebody needs to look into that. That's strange. She went too long on the script. She said some things on Court TV last night. I'm glad Vinny had her on. And folks, listen, Court TV, they have me on. They never tell me what to say. There are people, listen, I get along with the people at Court TV. I worked well with them. There were people, I'd rather people need to be, she will flee. She could flee. But the thing she was mentioning, again, I'm going to stay with the analogy. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I'll just use Godfather. I know both of those films, Godfather 1 and Godfather 2, inside out, right? She's quoting things from Godfather 1. Something odd. The things that she was mentioning, too much corruption. And all those people in the house, I didn't believe them. The people in the house really didn't testify. What else did she say? Yeah, there was just something about the way the brother testified. Paul didn't testify in this trial. Peg O'Keefe testified in this trial. What is she talking about? Yeah, I didn't trust those people in the house, and that, I didn't trust that Brian Albert and Brian Higgins. That's interesting. They didn't testify in this trial, Paula. What trial are you talking about? Remember, Godfather 1, Godfather 2. Godfather 2 was Michael's out in Vegas. He testifies in front of Congress. Doing all these interviews. Flurry, boom, bombard the media. She's still going to be making the rounds. She's still going to be, too many holes in the investigation. Yeah, this whole thing costs too much. Why would you care how much it costs? Why would you even be focused on how much it costs? Very strange. Why wouldn't you believe the EMT? Exactly. Thank you, Lisa. Oh, wow. Good. Tammy Helmus. Yes, Tammy. Thank you. Folks, we'll do shout-outs. I would love to. And I'll relax a little bit as long as we don't have the trolls. We'll work in a little bit of humor. I want to be very clear, folks. And I know we have a lot of new people. And over time, you'll meet and you'll learn. What I bring to the table is a lot of humor. I have a perspective. I've covered this stuff for a long time. Listen, and I want you to understand. The conspiracy, as Brian Albert said, it's let's just be realistic. This is bullshit. This is total bullshit. I never believed it. And the people pushing the conspiracy, they keep changing it. Look how they keep changing it. They didn't do third-party culprit. What is this, the garage? They never had him in the garage. He was in the basement. I don't believe them. There's something about these jurors that doesn't make sense. Boom, right away that guy's on TMZ. Alan Jackson controls TMZ. Boom, right away he's on. And of course, there's no pushback. Harvey, whatever his name, the guy from TMZ. I'm not doing any protests in the courthouse. Listen, you guys can do whatever you want. It would be small. They'll make fun of it. They'll mock this small number of people. I don't think that's the way to do it. People can do it if they want. I'm not part of something like that. I'm not. So it'll pale in comparison. They'll just knock the small turnout. People do whatever they want. I think there's going to be more effective ways. There's something strange the way she's talking about this. So I want you to understand. I went into this very open-minded, everyone. Yeah. So, and on the other side, there's people that are saying to me, you got to stop talking about this. He's got to stop. Why do I have to stop talking about it? There was that woman last night that I was on, the lawyer. Those, the witnesses, they need to just be quiet and stay in their house. They have a right to speak out. Why do they have to be quiet? Oh, they're going to be heard. Oh, they're going to be heard. They're going to be heard every day. Listen, let me be very clear. Karen Reed may have won a battle, but this is a war. And there's a lot at stake here. And they're a mob. And the entire crew out there that was booing me It was a bunch of degenerate hagbags and the IQ of low IQ, and they have no class, and they're just total filth. But Karen is nothing without Alan Jackson. He's the puppeteer. That's why he spends so much time with her. Just to be fair, he's a brilliant guy, and he may have won this. She's nothing without him. He's always whispering in her ear. She's not that smart. Let's see how she's going to do. Let's see as we start to hear from some of the witnesses. They have a right to speak out. Why is the, I'll tell you what's dangerous. Several things. That juror, right? This is dangerous. These people saying, let's go out and find the real killers. That is bullshit. That is dangerous rhetoric. There's not one elected official speaking out saying that's wrong. There's no investigation here. This is ludicrous, these people. OJ, as I've told you, I didn't think, gee, OJ didn't do it. We got to fight. No, what? As Judge Lou said, no, they had the right person. They just didn't. But there's something odd with this jury. And you have to ask, who had a lot at stake? Who had a lot at stake? Who couldn't take a chance with this jury other than Karen Reed? Who looks like a hero? Who was applauded? Like, that was like out of the Bible, right? Barabbas, the mob, send us Barabbas. Who's doing interviews? Oh, you know, the big hero believed in her. And but who? Let me also just talk about crime in general now. Just total hypothetical in general. Never brought up in court, excuse me. Who commits crimes? I'll tell you who commits crimes. People that think they can get away with them. People who think they're smarter than other people. People who think they're invincible. People who think they can manipulate the system. I mean, thank you, Tulu. Look at that. Nobody robs a bank or tries to rob a bank saying, I think we can do this. Who commits crimes? Obviously a narcissist, but kind of a twisted mind. People that think they're smarter than others, think they can manipulate the system. People think they can manipulate things. That's who commits crimes. And people who commit crimes never think they're going to get caught. So I think there's more of a story here. I know there's more of a story here. And there is a story here. This is not justice. Justice was not served. I want to be very clear. Karen Reed went to court and she was found not guilty, supposedly by a jury of appearance. But there's something odd about this. Now, we also know that people with a criminal mindset. Thank you. Did Alan Jackson even mention John being killed inside during his closing? No. Never. It was over. They failed at that. They abandoned that. She's putting that out. There was nothing. That is an excellent point. There's nothing that brought it to that. Zero. Folks, you always, in a situation like this, of course Karen Reed has a lot to lose. But who else has a lot to lose? Who believes they can manipulate the system? Who believes they can manipulate people? Who has demonstrated they're not afraid to break the law? So when I've covered corruption cases, a lot of times, the people that get involved with corruption, a lot of times it's people that something happened to them. I'll just give you an example. Within the system, corruption cases, they were passed over for a promotion. They feel gypped in some way. They feel they're owed. They go down a path. They may not say anything, but they feel they're getting ripped off, or that they can justify in their mind. I also want to remind people, folks, remember the human mind. Hi there, Carrie. So the people can justify a lot of different things. Every single day, whether people like it or not, men and women, just as an example, they justify selling their body every single day. Every day. OnlyFans, there's men and women justify doing various things for OnlyFans for money. So no one should ever say like someone wouldn't do that. Like that never goes down the road. But when I've covered like a government city corruption case, a lot of times it's someone who they feel underappreciated. They feel underpaid. They feel they're worth more. You know, it's a trait that comes in. I'm just going to go random examples. You know, I liked like Breaking Bad, Walter White. He suddenly was like, I'm the mastermind. I made $80 million, right? I love Breaking Bad. If I were I could be a Fortune 500 company. I am the best meth cook in the world. It takes over them. There are people, when I've dealt with criminals, they think they're smarter than other people. They think they're a mastermind. They get that disease that when they walk in a room, they're the smartest one in the room and they can outsmart people. They think that. And they learn little tricks around the system. But if you were looking to, let's just throw this out, total hypothetical. If you were looking to bribe somebody, because that's what we're talking about. It's not enough just to bribe someone for a not guilty. You need to bribe them and also get them to push others for the not guilty. You know, and you're not just going to say they couldn't come up with something, right? Why am I saying not guilty? There were too many holes in this thing. And I think Arca, they were good. And I don't think Karen killed John. You know, you're not just going to say, I don't know, because you may get asked, I don't know. And if you say various things like that, the judge can't argue with that. The media is not going to argue. When I have, again, covered some corruption cases, somebody gets passed over a promotion. They didn't get the raise they wanted. Like, all right, then I'll find another way to get that money. So someone in need of money. You know who needs money? People with children need money. Why was it, again, I am totally talking hypothetical. Why was it so important for her to be on this jury? Paula. Yeah, they flew my father in from Brazil to watch my kids. Interesting. Who flew your father in from Brazil? That's not a cheap plane ticket. What does he do back? I don't even know any of this. Huh. That sounds pretty important, right? What would be so important that they flew my father in from Brazil? Who did? Oh, he had to leave his job. So what did he do for money? I don't understand any of this. Thank you very much, Irish gal. Look at that. There's something I'm just throwing this out. We're just talking hypothetical. I'm not making any accusations. I'm not. I don't know what happened. But her descriptions are not adding up to this trial. So, and just the fact that she even says, I think her car touched him a little bit. Well, that's what we're talking about, Juror 11. That's what Hank Brennan was arguing, that the car touched him. If the car touched him, that's at very least manslaughter. If the car touched him, it's not your job to start saying, I think something happened in the house. She knows there was no evidence that put him in the house. I'm going off her interviews. And by the way, I want to be very clear for everybody. I would be saying this about any person. It's the words that are coming out. It's It's the content of what they're saying that is coming out. That's what I'm talking about. So someone that has 4 children, who's, by the way, who father-in-law is in a lot of legal trouble. Grant broke the story. Father-in-law is in a lot of trouble. He's like an Egyptian spy. I don't know the whole thing. Serious charges, espionage, Raytheon, federal prison. Her and the husband had to flee to Brazil. You had to flee to Brazil, where she says the cops are really corrupt in Brazil. Really? She says, these USA police, I've never heard anyone describe it as USA police. I'm pretty certain in this trial, Massachusetts State Police, it was Canton Police, Brian Albert, John O'Keefe for Boston Police. I haven't heard anyone describe them as USA police. So someone that had to flee the country comes back last year. In Brazil, an attorney, allegedly, but here, couldn't get a job at a law office? No? What do? I would think a lot of law offices, as a matter of fact, I've heard from several today who I've talked to that said, how could she not get a job at a law office who many would need someone who speaks Portuguese, speaks Spanish, right? She's fluent. This person said, do you know the number of law firms, immigration law firms, and she supposedly has a legal background, who would pay? She could converse with them, plus she legally. Why is she working at Target? So someone that works at Target, again, I want to be very clear. There's nothing wrong with working at Target. But if you were truly an attorney in another country, I could see you would develop an attitude. You have a problem that you're just working as a cashier at Target. 4 kids, that sounds expensive. Father-in-law, no money there. Father-in-law, I would imagine, trying to get out of federal prison. You need money to get out of federal prison. You need lawyers to get out of federal prison. The husband, we need more money. Need more money. Maybe she was disbarred. I don't know. I think it's seems like she's not registered as an attorney. Again, I want to give credit that to Grant. The towel, he's just a little towel. He's hilarious. It just doesn't, there's something, folks, and I want to be it's like someone asked me today, do you have the evidence of that? Do I have the fucking, yeah, I have the evidence. No, I don't have the evidence. But it just, something about this just hits me the wrong way. When the conspiracy was explained to me 2 years ago in July of 23, because they were trying to get me like, hey, if you pump this, you can keep some of the money, help them raise money, get to keep some of the money from it, blah, blah, blah. There's just something about this. Because they were saying to me, you have a big following in Southeastern Mass, and who knows, the jurors, if you promote this, help her raise money, it's probably not going to go to trial. But I think at the whole thing, like, you get to keep 30%. So if you raise $10,000 for her legal, you get to keep $3,000. So, you have a lot of followers in Southeastern Mass who Norfolk could end up in the jury pool. So, but there was just something about the whole thing that just didn't seem right to me. I've talked about that a little bit. I've told you that. I don't know. It just, Karen was brainwashed. It was a cop party. That's what I was told. Jen and Kerry brainwashed her. Really? Brainwashed her. And, this young drug dealer killed him in the house and threw him out on the lawn to send a message. And it's so bizarre. I didn't believe it then. As you guys know, the whole thing is melted and fallen apart. But I was devastated like everyone else on Wednesday. And I also want to be very clear. This isn't sour grapes. Oh, yeah. I don't know what to make of this. And then, the problem with this is when you create a monster like this, they can be tough to control. So suddenly she's on X. She's talking to everybody. I thought Vinny on Court TV last night, and John Jackson was brilliant, by the way. And I want to give Vinny credit. He let John Jackson vent. But it's just something. Yeah, why didn't Karen go in the house? She could have gone in the house. Why didn't she go in the house? I mean, I'm telling you, Karen without Alan Jackson is like Batman without Robin. Or actually Robin without Batman. Probably more like Gilligan without the Skipper. Or Jesse without Walt in Breaking Bad. Alan Jackson, work with her, say this. Before they'd walk out each day, say this, whisper in her ear, give her the script, boom, boom, boom. So he's back in LA. He's getting back to his practice. He's getting a lot of money thrown at him of people, I want to be very clear. I am in no way intimating, I am not, that the defense is involved with this. I see this as it's more of a third party. Someone else who would approach someone, or more than one. We're hearing 2 to 3 people were very aggressive deliberating. Now, I'm speaking to one of the jurors either tomorrow night or on Monday. I don't know if this juror, and it's definitely a juror, and I'm going to have someone else help me verify it, by the way, but independent individuals. So, because obviously I'm going to be attacked. I'm going to be attacked at anything, right? I'm attacked for saying that I don't believe 15 to 20 people were involved in a conspiracy with no motive, no murder weapon, murdered someone, threw him out on the front lawn. Absurdity. The defense didn't even do that. But anyhow, so, it's reasonable doubt. Yeah, I don't think so. But I'm curious to hear what they say. I don't, and I want to also just caution you, when I speak to this juror, I'm just going to tell you, I'm not going to be aggressive. We know a mutual person, and I have assured that person that I'm not going to, I want to leave it that this person who is, again, it's a lot to go through. It's different experience, right? I get all that, but I don't want this mutual person to say, I regret having this juror talk to, the chosen one. I don't want that. So I just want to listen. And we may not like the answers. We may not like what we hear. I am prepared for that. But I want to hear. I want to hear what it is. I want to hear what it was like. I want to hear, because I don't get how they arrived where they got. I didn't get it on Wednesday. There were certain people that were too calm about this whole thing. Last year, there were people rattled how long this went on. There were some people, to me, it was like a fixed race. There was just something about it. I can't put my finger on it, but I don't know. I don't know. Who's going to sue? For what? I don't, these people saying, Karen Reed, I want to see Karen Reed sue the Commonwealth. She's not going to sue the Commonwealth. I admit, as Judge Lou say, this does put her in a better position for her civil lawsuit against the O'Keefe family, but not totally out of the woods, right? They got OJ. There's other people that could have some problems. What would they sue for? What would they sue for? People don't understand who could sue. I'll tell you who could sue. The witnesses could sue. Let me tell you about, just so you guys understand, as we almost approach 3,000 on this Saturday night. And again, thank you if you want to support. We have the Venmo, we have the Cash App. On Facebook, we have stars. YouTube, you have the super chats or the other chats. Certain people were planning celebrations before the verdict was announced. Listen, for someone to take legal action, I want you to understand, because I don't think a lot of people understand this. You have to show that you have suffered and suffered a dollar amount in some way, or there's been incredible suffering from that. If someone just, hear me out, if someone just goes on social media and says, just as an example now, someone is fat and the person says, I'm going to sue you. Well, in court, you have to prove that as a result of that person calling you obese, that you somehow that affected you, or affected you as far as financially. Now, if you want to say under mental duress or whatever, that's a higher burden. It's not impossible. But again, a good example is as I talk about, Sandy Hook, right? Alex Jones. He created a hoax. He was convincing people that Sandy Hook never happened and that those people were faking, that they never had those children, the children were fine. He convinced people of that. And people were torturing them. People, some of the, this woman said she was in, let me think. She was traveling and she was in an elevator. I think I'm going to get it wrong. Maybe let's just say Pennsylvania. Or she was just somewhere in the country, maybe San Francisco, and she had a little pendant of her child. And I'll answer some of the questions. But this woman in the elevator said, "Oh, what's that?" And she said, "Oh, this is a reminder. My 6-year-old was killed." And the woman said, "Oh my God, how horrible! How did that happen?" And the mother said, "Well, my child was at Sandy Hook." And the woman in the elevator said, What are you talking about? That never happened." "No, that never happened. They said that never happened." And the mother said, "Think how many times that woman had to come across content." She's in an elevator in San Francisco. And that woman, and she said she wasn't crazy. And she was saying that didn't happen. That didn't happen. Another father said he was on business in Seattle. He's walking on a random street in Seattle. A guy recognizes him and says, "How do you live with yourself, you son of a bitch?" And he was saying, think how much content he had to absorb. He recognized Robbie is his name, the father. He recognized him on a random street in Seattle. So now my point is, you talk about the McCabe's, you talk about the Alberts, you talk about Colin, you talk about Brian Higgins. Their lives haven't been turned upside down. Their children's lives haven't been turned upside down. So there's definitely slander, defamation material there, without question. Oh my God. You think of this. You labeling Colin Albert a killer. People were showing up at his school. He had to drop out of college. He didn't even testify in the second trial. His name wasn't even mentioned in the second trial. Karen Reed started that. When they arrested Karen Reed on the body cam video, this was June of 3 years ago, 2022. Karen Reed said, "Oh, we're all in the same joke. Brian Albert, Colin Albert, they pulverized John." She started that. She left Higgins out because she was actually still hopeful to have a romantic relationship with him, much like she texted him, "John's dead." So could Colin Albert sue Karen Reed? 100%. And we believe, as information will come out, that Karen Read was directing people to go and try to intimidate, as the witnesses said the other night. So, and as many of you know, you can't talk. You can't rationalize or convince these people that are so deep in the conspiracy. You can't. Well, I don't know when after. I mean, I see that when after. I think that's a maybe derogatory post, but not physically go after. And how come, Roxy? Because he didn't say his name. Don't say the name. Say the internet person or blogger. That's what I request. Look at that. And how come? Because he didn't mention him. Because Matt Cutman didn't mention him in the story. How come you're not mentioning me? Total. Hey, listen. I was there the other day when that idiot, totally overrated. He's not an investigator. That stuff was all handed to him. He's not an investigator. Karen Read gave him the autopsy photos. That's how sick those people are. She doesn't care about John O'Keefe. She leaked his autopsy photos to that little pig subhuman, the little rat, which then put out everywhere. Why did they do that? See the back of his head? He was hit by something. See the arm? Those are dog bites. See the eyes? He was beat up. She leaked that to him to put out. And then she says, I just want justice for him. Listen, that drunk skank, there's something wrong with her, as we know. There is. And let me be very clear. I don't find her attractive. She's evil. There's something wrong with her. She has mental problems. Michael Proctor was right. He called her a whack job. She is. I can't stand her. She almost bumped into me going into the courtroom the other day. Karen, all those zeros out there. Karen, my queen. What are they going to yell now? Free Karen. She is free. Learn a new phrase, you hagbags. They're demented. There's something wrong with them. I can't stand any of them. I can't. I don't care. If you believe that, screw. I feel like I'm cleaning out the closet. These people, I'm not good. If you believe that, you're an embarrassment. And I also listen, folks, we're just going to let it fucking rip on a Saturday night. Listen, I'm entitled to my opinion. You're not entitled to alternative facts. 2 + 2 will never be 3. I'm entitled to my opinion. 2 + 2 will never be 3. 80% of the people out there say 2 + 2 is 3. 2 + 2 will never be 3. The earth is not flat. Hate to disappoint you. Leave. We're going in a different direction. Cleaning house. Beat it. Scram. Not everybody can come along for the ride. I know exactly where I am going. I do. I am completely committed to the cause. I am on a mission. I have a platform. I'm going to use it properly. I cannot be intimidated. I cannot be bought off. I have a higher calling. I have a strong faith. I come from a great family. I loved my parents. I have the most wonderful children. One of them, we have a huge announcement this week. I'm so proud. What do you guys hear about this? So, huge announcement for one of them. Another one, another one of my children is a rising star at Fox. So, that's not easy. Where do you learn more? And they helped me launch 2020. They helped me launch everything. It's great. So, and I would teach them, just because this part of the country that we're in, the Northeast, we don't pick up their values. You have your values. We have our values. We don't just go with the crowd. I get it. I walk down those steps and all those idiots booing me. Booing me for what? Booing me for what? They should have been called out. Now, one elected official had the balls to say, this ends right now. You're cheering for someone that just was found guilty on an OUI. The O'Keefe family had to go out the back door. Those people had no class. I mean, no class. And by the way, I get it that part of the movement is there's no rules. See, that's the cult mentality. That's classic. Thank you, Sunshine. Yes, we are. We are. There's no turning back. None. There's good people. I've met great people on this side. I can't be on the other side, but it's all part of it. You know, it is kind of frightening, and I think it's downplayed. I know it does. Thank you. In the Boston media, it does. But the Boston media, by the way, they suck. So they suck. And by the way, just so you understand, I've been fired from one radio station, one in my entire career. Years ago, Howard Stern got fired, Imus got fired, Opie and Anthony got fired. It was like no big deal, right? That all kind of changed with the whole cancel culture. One time, there's people out there. He's been fired multiple lies. Listen, if I was, there'd be a news story about it. When I was fired, it was on the front page of the Boston Globe. And that wasn't, listen, we were joking around. And, you know, it didn't have to happen. The real story, another time I'll tell the real story is I was going to have someone as a guest. They didn't like that. They were very upset about it. So, because it threatened their brand. And this person, I was right. I met someone. I said, this guy is going places. I want to have, you cannot have him on. And he's exploded. And then a month later, on a bullshit thing, they terminated me. But one time. And listen, I got the ultimate penalty. So there's no statute of limitations on that? Like forever, these people. He was 20 years ago. There are people who do less time for murder than that. It was unfair. I've dealt with it, and it didn't define me. Here we are. But just that is like total bullshit. And they're going after anything. They are. But we're not going to kowtow to that. Thank you, Judy Fury. We're not. Listen, the guest was Dave Portnoy, Barstools. I was going to have him on. I met him. We were in Boston. It's like, this guy is great. But the boss ran both RKO and EI. And they flipped. The EI people flipped that I was going to have Portnoy on. And there's another part of that. But whatever. F them. You only put up with so much. But let me get back to this. I think this whole episode has been embarrassing. Those people, the Boston media, that should have been, this is shameful. This is shameful what's going on. Look at these people. Look at these cult-like people in pink. And they're cheering her on and blah. What are you cheering for? Embarrassing. Healy won't say anything. There's no elected official saying anything. We could go with a lot of different examples where people would say, boy, that's wrong. That shouldn't be allowed. You know, there's a lot of things wrong. But that crowd, I believe it's a very dangerous atmosphere right now because they don't know what to do. As I said last night on Court TV, this business of now the search for the real killers. And that's why that juror, she should be ashamed of herself. She wants to do interviews, fine. You don't start saying that I think with an investigation go after these people. And she's naming names. She's not just anybody, Paula, right? She's not just anyone. She's a juror. And I'm sure she's going to make the rounds. You know, this business of that's yelling fire in a crowded theater. That she went out of her way. I don't remember exactly. I think she said she didn't believe Jen and Kerry, which is bullshit. But she said, you know, Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, and why are you mentioning that? I've never heard of a juror. I never heard of a juror saying, we need to go after the real killers here. I've never heard that before. Where did she get that from? Who told her to say that? And was that part of the deal? Because something happened here. All right. I'm telling you right now. I don't believe this. I don't believe any of it, as a matter of fact. I don't. I don't. And then I did. She's commenting on my posts, right? And so I said, "Oh, you listen. You're welcome to come." And oh, look at her. He's begging her to come. I'm not fucking begging her to come on. She did her first interview with Jess Machado. Really? How did that come about? Wasn't she always complaining that she couldn't get in the courtroom? Wasn't she always complaining that I was there? Really? Huh. You'd almost think that someone directed her to that interview. Who would guide her? First interview was with her. Huh. And then we go to Sue O'Connell. Interesting. Who would be guiding that person? Of all the people, Machado wasn't in for the verdict, was always complaining. Thank you, Rose. Always complaining that I was in. Always going with the mob. Machado, she showed up last spring wearing pink, saying, I can't stand it anymore. Karen Reed was framed. I can't be silent anymore, my best. Really? What happened to that? Why didn't you investigate? Why didn't you investigate that? Oh, yeah. Look at that. Look at that. The cartel. Juror 11 went on the Karen Reed cartel. I liked when Shaughnessy used to say the Foxborough, Fort Foxborough, the Patriot cartel. Look who she went on with. In no short order. Yeah. Let's just say blogger or say internet person. That's exactly, the guy loves seeing his name. You know what else bothers me about that individual is he would never say the stuff he says, he would never say to Brian Albert's face. He would never say to Proctor's face. He would never say to Higgins' face or Colin, nothing. Paper tiger, big tough guy. No, I know tough people. They say things to someone's face. Would never do that. Instead of all the deranged, right? The lady from fucking Texas. Hey there, Yank. Did you? I don't even think I tapped it. I don't even think I tapped her truck. I think I heard my tire rolling over. I'm lower than what a truck is. And they were flipping out. There it is. Hit and run. If it's a hit and run, why is there film of me talking to the Dedham police who I called? If it was a hit and run, why did they leave a note? Jesus, these people. But you can't talk to them. You can't reason with them. You can't. It's not worth it. But it's time for Karen Reed. Frank, I am doing this, so just chill out. My comment was canceled. Come on. I didn't touch anything. So, Kelly, but look at the mentality. Look at the mentality. Why? Think of that. Because you believe the police. We're booing you because you believe the first responders. We're booing you because you believe the people at the hospital. When did that become a bad thing? We booed you because you stood for the national anthem. They're not Americans, those people with all the flags. They're the farthest thing. And I don't go into it too much, but there's a lot of racism with the Karen Reed case, since they want to talk about it. And I would hear them. The whole reason some of the members of we got to protect Karen. She's one of us. White Karen from the suburbs. We got to protect. No, we got to take care of her. As they were saying, it's not like she's an illegal. This huge, heavy-set woman said, it's not like she's one of these people from Roxbury. We got to protect our Karen. Oh, okay. That's interesting. That's who you have to protect. They're not Americans at all. Listen, I believe police, by and large, they do the best they can. It's not easy being a member of law enforcement. I can't stand people that go up and they swear and spit at police and have this agenda. I think it's a sickness. I can't stand it. I can't stand the people that hate our military. I know in the Constitution, I know that people are allowed to burn the flag. I don't like it. I would never do that. I get that. But it doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. I can't stand when they burn the flag. I don't think that makes me old school. I can't stand that. I don't like when people call them, I don't even call them cops. I call them police officers. They never know what they're walking into. The Massachusetts State Police, they were so patient with those degenerates. No, I didn't hit her. YouTube was blasting. I didn't hit her. I thought, could I have clipped the taillight? They're so stupid. When I was saying no collision, no collision, no collision, they didn't even get it. And the language on that trash, those hagbags. Wow. Just real bottom of the barrel, I don't interact with people. I don't like people like that. It's negative energy. Hey, she's the one that said these USA police. That's an odd statement. Why was it so important? 4 kids. Well, they flew my father up from Brazil. Yes, they are. It's not easy. They flew my father up from Brazil. If I were interviewing, I'd say, who flew him up? Why was it so important? And he had to live with us. Yeah, I was so busy I couldn't work. Well, I mean, I know they paid them, but they paid them like for jury duty. Don't you get like minimum? But I mean, isn't that a hardship? That listen, I can't do this. I have 4 kids, 4 that we know about. But why was it so important? She was so adamant. Thank you, Terry. I don't get the whole. There's something strange there. We'll see. Listen, maybe they'll be investigated. Maybe it won't be investigated. I think the first 2 out of the box. The woman that did the interview on Channel 5, I don't have a bone to pick with her. I knew exactly who she was. I don't know what happened with her. She told David that she was a guilty, and she went in there. She couldn't find some piece of paper, and she was like, oh, the hell with it. I'll just focus. Like that, I don't get either. And I'm anxious. There is a juror that I'm going to talk to, and I want to hear what their thought is. But their side, let me tell you what's happening here is, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know who did. They paid for my father to fly up from Brazil to watch my kids. That's not a cheap plane ticket. He had to leave his job. Oh, well, they paid him. Well, who paid him while he was here? Who's they? Notice, wasn't even asked that. Well, he was in his socks, and he went in the house. There was no witness that had him walking around in his socks. On top of that, there was no, he had a sneaker on at the hospital. She said, well, I think a sneaker fell off in the ambulance. That's not what they said. Like, she's making things up. Yes, I agree. I don't know about that. I don't know what type of background. I admit, as I was watching them and they're just sitting there nodding, it was almost as if it didn't matter. I really feel terrible for Hank Brennan. Someone needs to investigate this. I don't know who. I'm going to try to find out. The first 2 out of the box, Mr. TMZ and then Miss Brazil, I just find, I want to be very clear. I'm not accusing her of anything. I'm not making allegations against her. I'm just throwing it out. I just find some of her answers, there's something about it that doesn't make sense to me. And especially as she keeps talking more about things that happened. That's what really caught my attention, was when she started mentioning things that were in the first trial, not this trial. That's what caught it. And when she said, I think her car hit him a little bit. I didn't hear that one. Hank's a really good man, Maggie. He's such a good guy. I feel terrible. We share a mutual friend. The plan is we're going to share a meal. I'm going to ask him. I'd like to do an interview with him. I don't know if he wants to. I don't know if he can. I'm going to offer an interview. I can tell you that he couldn't have done a better job. He did a great job. So, but there's just something slippery about this whole thing. I'll tell you why. Because let's face it, the other side, they're really not that smart. Karen is a drunken skank. The sea of skanks, the pink sea of skank. She's really not that smart. And she does have a weird Fall River accent. And some of the only one, all right, Yannetti, I'm not saying he's not a smart guy. I'm not. He and Yannetti, he and Alessi, they went on and did some interview. Like, whatever. And Alessi, I like Bob. I mean, I don't know what happened. I mean, some of the stuff he was doing. And he basically wrote Marie Russell's report. I was in the limo with Mr. Alessi. Jackson, I think that guy's got a bag of tricks. Him with the Signal app with the guy from ARCA. I don't know why the judge let them testify. Judge should not have let them testify. He was communicating on an encrypted app. You're supposed to have emails you could hand over. You're supposed to have phone calls or texts. The guy from ARCA deleted his text. Why were they communicating on a secret app? Makes no sense. But I come back to everybody, people make mistakes. They made mistakes. They're not as smart as they think they are. And some of her supporters are definitely not as smart as they think they are. They're not. They think they're smart. Hey, listen, I've seen who they surround themselves with, right? A fifth grader is smarter than some of those people. They're not as slick as they think they are. They're not. I don't know what's going to happen. Now, a lot of these charges that are out there, is Karen going to be brought up on charges now that I don't know. And the internet person, the blogger, I don't know I don't know. I don't have a handle on it. I don't know what's going to happen. Everyone keeps saying justice will prevail. The judge made I think so. The judge was too lenient. Here's another thing. I mean, that was like a classic, sadly, Massachusetts courtroom. Do you think a Texas judge would have put up with this bullshit? Think a Florida judge would have put up with this bullshit? What? The witnesses lied in court? ARCA guys? Jackson, they lied to the court? And she didn't bounce him out of here? Total bullshit. And Alessi dragging it on? But let's just stick. I want to... So the foreman did, I think, a phone interview. He apparently knew the Boston Marathon bombers. This makes sense, right? So I want to give credit to the towel. Grant broke that the Brazilian juror 11, Paula, her father-in-law, charged very serious crime. Sounds like espionage. I don't know about her story yet. She was trying to be presented as an attorney. Maybe she is an attorney. I don't know. But then Grant discovered she actually works at Target. There's nothing wrong with that, except why were they trying to present her? I agree, Red Sky, about that. Yes, a drunken skank is right. Where is this going to go? I think it's time I like that John Jackson spoke out. I like the other night that the witnesses spoke out. I think more people need to speak out. I'm communicating with a number of people. I'll tell you that I know that's right, Candy. They definitely not. They like my coverage. They do. You can't, I'm telling you, it's got to be genuine. You can't put an act. I'll give you an example. That Billy Bush, it's so embarrassing, his hot mics or whatever he's doing. And he's got some guy who's like, Peter something, Murphy. The guy's always looking like he's lost. A lot of corruption in Canada. Oh my God. Fucking A. Looks like a cadaver. Billy Bush, Proctor. Oh my God. I mean, that is just beyond pandering. I'll also say this. A lot of these YouTube people, not that I knock it, we're building on YouTube. They don't want this to go away, right? This is, as I've told you, there's many people that have been drawn into this. This is their life. They don't want to go back to their old life. You know, someone told me there was a standout today. I thought they were on Sundays. I'm not positive about that. But someone told me that now they're holding signs, Karen Reed is free instead of free Karen Reed. What does that tell you? It tells you they're not planning on going anywhere. Apparently, they're still planning on overpasses and standouts. Karen Reed is free. See, that's their club. Every Sunday, who's bringing the coffee? Who's bringing the donuts? Matching outfits. Let's get change the sign. Again, people can do whatever they want in their spare time, hobbies. I find it a little odd, a little unusual, as a matter of fact. I'm glad you mentioned that, Christine. He was in Brian Albert. I have a feeling you're going to hear a very good interview with Brian Albert. I've talked about. I covered him. He was a legendary Boston police officer. I covered Brian, Marine, Sergeant in the Marines in Desert Storm. Something's going down. You want Brian Albert on your side. I'll say this. He's my type of guy. He is. He doesn't deserve this. Brian Albert may not have realized it. I'm sure he didn't. He was in a no-win situation. As he explained, what was he supposed to do? Go outside? John was gone. John was on his way to the hospital. There was nothing there. It was a blizzard. The Canton police tried to put up some yellow tape. It was a blizzard going on. What was he supposed to do? He said, I'm a Boston police officer, not a Canton police officer. If Brian Albert had left his house, now look at the shit that he's caught, for how come he didn't go outside? There's a guy on his lawn. Well, it's not as though he watched from the window. John was on his way to the hospital. They arrived without sirens. So think of this situation. He's being criticized. Why didn't you go outside? There's someone on your lawn. Well, I go to crime scenes where sometimes there's still the victim there. It wasn't that. It wasn't that. If he had gone outside, what do you think they'd be saying now? What was he doing there? He's not a Canton police officer. He's not Massachusetts State Police. What would they be? They'd be saying he tampered with the evidence. He was in a no-win situation. I believe you can't fault people for what they didn't do, right? That fraud that you know, the lawyer that you know, that Brian's on video at the front door. That is not true. There is no video. I can't stand. You can't make things up. I'm not going to put up with it. That's not an opinion. You're making things up. You don't think that video would have been shown? You don't think that video would have been shown? I've covered the trial and the retrial. He's saying there's video of Brian at the front door. You don't think that video would have been shown? Made up. Totally made up. So if he had gone outside, they would be saying he tampered with the evidence. What was he doing there? They went after the chief of Canton. You don't investigate these things. Massachusetts State Police investigates. Canton Police doesn't do that. Why were you doing anything? That was their attitude. So Brian Albert can't control the Canton Police. He doesn't control that. Massachusetts State Police said when the CERT team arrived and they were digging out, that a guy with a hood came running out and said, just want to check you guys are. And they said, Mass State Police CERT team. And he said, okay. And he went back. And that was Brian Albert. He was put in a no-win situation. He had been at the funeral that morning. Yeah, he'd be accused of something, Vicky. Do you understand that? But to me, if you're going to be accused of something, better to be that you did not, of the two, that you didn't go out, as opposed to if he did go out, why was he there? He must have tampered with the evidence. Blah, blah, blah. These people like, look at that, the Sally port. Proctor's looking at the back. What are you talking about? What kind of investigator would Proctor be if he wasn't looking at the blinking tail light? Not a good one. Of course they were looking at it. When you have someone standing there saying, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Thank you, Tanya. I will not. Thank you, Tanya. When you have someone saying, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him with a broken tail light, this wasn't a whodunit. And these people, by the way, that say, why didn't they go in that? They did go in the house. Well, why didn't they search the house? Here's a question. Should they have searched the house next door? What about the house across the street? Scenario, tomorrow morning, 6:30 in the morning, there's a knock on your door and it's the police. And they say, across the street, we found there's someone that we want to search your house. What would you say? What would you just say? Come right in? Whoa. What happened? Down the street, they found someone lying there. We want to come in and search your house. At 6:30 in the morning. No, you're not. I don't know anything about that. You're not coming in my house. For what? What? I don't. Who did you find? Whoa. No, I don't know what this is all about. I have no idea why there's someone down there. But you're not. Have someone. Well, what do you have to hide? I don't have anything to hide. But I'm not having any police coming into my home at 6:30 in the morning because there's someone they found down the street. That's why would I do that? If you can come up with a reason or show me why that it would make sense that you should come in, then fine. And I'm a supporter of police, but like, what are you talking about? Everyone says, why didn't they search all the houses? Do people think that's what goes on? You can't do that. 100% no. No way. What? See, the people that say that have no idea how it works. No, you're not getting permission for that. Zero. They were inside. Now, let me also say this. It is true. Brian Albert's brother is a member of the Canton Police Department, which means they know him. He's not a drug lord. He's not, didn't just get out of prison. He's someone they know. He and Higgy had gone that morning to the funeral of a police officer in New York. Like, this is nonsensical. But these people, they don't make sense. Thank you, Roxy. They don't. Insanity. No. Brian Higgins, there he is. He's on the phone. Maybe he's listening to a voicemail. Folks, it all happened by the flagpole. And I believe Hank Brennan put on a solid case. I believe that. And first of all, thank you to everybody, stars on Facebook and all our subscribers or super chats. And then also on DePietro.com, we have PayPal. But then people asked me, hey, add a Cash App. Okay, add a Venmo. Why not? So, the defense, they didn't even believe the third-party culprit this time around. As I said, why were people protesting in front of D&E Pizza? What did Chris Albert do wrong? He was friends with John. He wasn't even at the house. Why are they protesting outside D&E Pizza? Those people should be held accountable. Why are they terrorizing the guy? Total misguided. It is an invitation. People say like Vegas, whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. There's certain cities that people feel thank you, Scorpio, that it's okay to kind of like go off a little bit. New Orleans, people like, oh, I'm going to New Orleans for the weekend. We're going to get wasted. People go to Vegas. Hey, right? If there's ever time to cut loose, I'm going to Vegas. Miami is like that, some people, right? New York City, like that. Part of this movement is you say and do whatever you want. You can be as vile as you want. You go after Mrs. O'Keefe. You go after there's no rules. No one's ever going to say that goes too far. You put on the pink, you join the group. There is no, you act on your worst impulses. They're green lighting people's worst impulses. If you think of a negative thought, just blurt it out. Right? It's the ultimate mob mentality and vile mob mentality. I'll bet many of these people, if you get them one-on-one, and I'd see some of them, and some of them are friendly to me actually, and a number of them, to be honest, I mean, a number of them would say, just so you know, I actually find you very entertaining, and I think you're really funny, and blah blah blah, and I listen. I'm not like when I would be there, and I'm not looking for altercation. I'm not. I'm there to cover the case, not this other bullshit that is going on. But for those that want to, if you want to go to Vegas and really cut loose, that is the right place. If you say, I have 50 grand and I want to go to Vegas, and you have gone to the right place. Because there's plenty of places where there's no rules. Whatever it is, there's someone that will accommodate. There is. So it becomes an excuse for people. There's a lot of people, they come back from Vegas, they're like, oh my God, it's the Vegas hangover. I'm like, because they're pumping oxygen in. And people say and do things, and like, oh my God, I can't believe that. And I never would have done that. And so that's part of the movement. It's an excuse to say, act, and do things. That's why a lot of them, when they get caught, they can't really rationalize it, right? There's certain, Toby Keith, when he came to Foxborough, Gillette, I didn't go, but for some people, apparently, it is a reason to you are annihilated standing up. You can do anything. Like, it's that attitude. Like, how some college kids feel spring break. Just blame it on that. And part of that is they give them the impression. If you want to go and get in somebody's face, it's okay. If you want to say vile things and swear, the people you're doing it to, they deserve it. They're not normal. They killed him, right? They were pointing at me. They call him, they call me names, and it's okay to yell at him and swear and be rude and go after him and say the most vile things because he's with them. It's all part of it. Not to be too preachy on a Saturday night, but folks, how do you think not to be a historian, but you had 19-year-old kids in Germany, and they're like, wait a minute, what do you want me to do? All right, see, when those kids get off the train, you're gonna, execute them all. Let's see. 3 years ago, March of 22, I was in Poland and Ukraine. I traveled. I saw some of the concentration camps. I've been to Israel. It's hard to rationalize how anyone could do that, but it was part of like. There's a train. I don't want to get too. I mean, it is a Saturday night, and we want to have fun. But what I'm saying is, you have to rationalize to them that it's. And I know it sounds very extreme. It is, and I'm sure there's a better analogy. But I think all right, we can move on. I think you get the gist of it. That it's all about putting someone in the mindset that what they're doing is okay. So, all right. I don't think she's going to flee. All right. Well, first of all, how does everybody like the Saturday night thing? I normally don't do this. We are out. We are out normally, but I am also working on other projects, so it kept me a little bit delayed. I also, Keefs are asking for 50,000. I don't know about that. I would think more than that, but maybe that's the amount. Maybe that's the amount. I think they should get more than that. I don't know. Some other people, and I know some people are going to say that that's wrong. I don't know. That's. I don't know what to make of her. I don't know what to make of her, other than it was a little uncomfortable to hear her. I think the car touch him, and then the whole Brazilian thing. Unless it's played up, she was living in Brazil. I don't know what to make of that. Grant broke some news about her. She said some things, as I've said, that I thought were just a little. It is like one. That's right, 50,000. Oh, just for the bars. Hold on, I missed that. I missed the request. Do some impressions. Comment on how defense knew the verdict. From what I understand, it was because of the type of questions. I could. That's not enough. They should go for more. They should wipe her out. And I hope the witnesses go. As I was telling one of the witnesses, it's not a bad thing that Karen's out, because then she could earn money, and then that's just more for the witnesses and the O'Keefes to take. So maybe she's more valuable than if she's in the can. If she's in Framingham, she's no good to us. So I don't know what to make of the Brazilian juror, other than she was saying that. She said, "Oh, Brazil, you can't trust the police." Yeah, but we're not Brazil. We're not Brazil. She also said last night on Vinny that she didn't think Trooper O'Hara was a good witness. He was a great witness. The defense didn't lay a glove on him. See, there's something odd about this. There is. I'm going to play this out. I'm going to be discouraged. I'm going to be attacked. But I'm going to play this out. I don't know, Liz. I'm sure that maybe they have something worked out. There is, but then, they're going to have to chase her for the money. But I don't know what's fact and fiction with the things she was saying. They sounded scripted. Who was telling her to say those things? We learned when the little rat went up to Jen McCabe and said, you think you could outsmart Karen Reed. Well, we learned that was provided, right? Told to say that by Karen Reed. So there's definitely a pattern of people are provided to say things. Many of her supporters are provided talking points. Here's what you say about this and that one and that one. And, one of the problems I had with some of the Boston media was, not all, but a couple of them were saying, hey, listen, we're all on the same page here. You got to get on our page. And our page is that the jury doesn't like Brennan, and that this isn't a good case, and that the jury loves Karen. And you gotta get in tune. You gotta get, you gotta sing along. And I was so put off by that. What? No. If anything, as I said, that not only did she know too much, she knew things from, as I said, I'll use the example again, Godfather 1, Godfather 2. She's quoting things from Godfather 1 when this was the retrial. She should only be talking about Godfather 2. She mentioned people who didn't testify. How could she say, I didn't find Brian Higgins believable? Brian Higgins didn't testify. I had a lot of questions for Brian Albert when he was on the stand. Brian Albert didn't testify. I don't know what the fuck she's talking about. I don't get this whole thing. How did everybody suddenly? I think it's very unusual. I've never seen this before. So to me, it's To me, if you're a Breaking Bad fan, Julie Grant's great. She's my buddy. Oh yeah, and he gets so mad. He gets so mad because listen, I know, I was contacted by some of his clientele who said each day he'd get talking points when he was going to be on TV. He got very defensive with me. And he said, if I was going to get talking points, it wouldn't be from Karen, it'd be from her lawyers. Hey, I didn't say first of all, I don't believe that. I think they were too busy. And she was always on her phone and computer. So there's someone on YouTube that she was always messaging. Why did they get so mad and defensive? I don't know. Yeah, TMZ. Well, who knows what was promised? Let's just say, I'm going to throw this out, total hypothetical. Total hypothetical. Let's just say, and again, I'm not talking about any individual. I'm going to give another analogy here. But let's see. Let's say Access Hollywood. Access Hollywood. Let's say someone says from the defense, or someone connected to the defense, third party even, and they get a juror. Again, total, not pointing a finger, hypothetical. But before I forget, I just want to throw this out. In Breaking Bad, when they questioned Gus Fring, where were you on this? And do you remember when Hank says to Gus Fring, Gustavo Fring, was that your real name? Is that your real name, Chili? Because we can't. And when he leaves, what does Hank say? He's almost too perfect. He's got an alibi. He's at the policeman's ball. Just something about it. He has all these friends. Somebody's Gail Benecker gets shot, killed in his apartment. You don't call police? Oh, yeah, I was this, and then I was this, and I was home at 10. Interesting. But let's just say Access Hollywood. Someone says, you're going to get 50 grand, and here's your assignment. Number one, obviously, you're not guilty. But beyond that, you got to be a leader. You got to dominate. You got to drive at home. And you're going to use these talking points. There were a lot of holes. There's no way. I don't believe it was a collision. Something happened in the house. Blah, blah, blah. You're going to wear them down. So now you're promised 50 grand, right? Trial ends. You get a call from a producer from Access Hollywood. We'd love to have you on. Great. And on top of that, we're going to pay you 50 grand. Raise your hand. Did a third party or someone with the defense give you 50,000? No, absolutely not. Just like the juror. No, the 50,000. No, I got that from doing some legal work. Someone gave me that money as a retainer. Oh, who gave you the money? Well, that's attorney-client privilege. I can't tell you that. Oh, you're an attorney. Yeah. Where'd you get the 50,000? Well, that's attorney-client privilege. I can't tell you what we discussed or what the fee was. I can't violate attorney-client privilege. Interesting when they approach an attorney, isn't it? One other thing. Hold on. There's Jason. I hate these people. You can leave. I never understand the people. I just had him. I hate these people that they want to tell us what we should talk about. I can't stand it. Screw. Just like some of these people, enough already. No one talk about it anymore. Who made you the principal? Who made you the teacher? Like, what is this? Like, my parents died, sadly, several years ago. What is this? Everyone should just stop talking about it, man. But this was a corruption plot. I'll tell you this. There was an elected official. Ready? You guys will like this, and then I'm not going to stand much longer because I do want to go to sleep. But I'm glad we did this. So make sure you follow the page, right? We're on X and Facebook and YouTube, this platform. We're also going to, weekdays, late afternoon, going to start doing a live stream with guests, though, with guests. But this was the scheme. Ready? You know how you go to a fast food place and you pay at one window, but then you pick up your food another. So the scheme was that this person came up with a scheme. I'm not going to get into who, doesn't matter. But that it is a war. It's not just a battle. But this was the scheme the person came up with. So he had 2 chiefs of staff, and he borrowed $50,000 from each of them. So he's got $100,000. So he goes to he had 2 chiefs of staff for a reason. So he goes to person A, Monday. How much do I owe you? He says, well, I lent you $50,000 in cash. 10 o'clock on Monday, right? Monday afternoon, guy comes to his office, doesn't know who he is. Says, I want to make a hold on one second. Okay. He said, I want to make a donation to, he was a mayor, to his election campaign. Gives him $10,000. Whoa. Mayor calls the chief of staff. How much do I owe you? Guy thinks for a minute. He says, $40,000. Right? Borrowed 50. Somebody just came handing him 10. A little bit later in the day, another guy comes in. I want to donate to the campaign. Another 10,000. Mayor calls him. How much do I owe you? He says 30,000. See how it works? He was convinced. No one's ever saying they put the money into him. Did you borrow? Yeah, I borrowed money. That's between us. I'll pay him back. The guy that came and gave you the money. Hey, I didn't know what it was all about. He said he wanted to help with the campaign. See, that's the out. That's how it can work. All right. With that, I don't know, Linda. I don't know. We're going to play it out. That's right. She hit him. All right. Listen, everybody. Thank you. We'll see where this develops. Thank you to our moderators. I know it was a lot. We try to balance in the trolls. Thank you, everybody. We'll see where this case develops. We may be back tomorrow night. Unsure. Not anymore. Billy Bush, what an embarrassment. Oh, they go way back. Thank you, Sunshine. Thank you, Sunshine. Thank you to everybody. All right. Much more fun ahead. And enjoy your Saturday night.